Welcome to Destination Linux, the 221B Baker Street of open source, sleuthing where every line of code is a clue to unravel the mysteries of tech. I'm your Sherlock Holmes this week, Ryan, puffing on the pipe of Linux, logic with trusty irregulars ready to crack the case of digital freedom. Jill is our Irene Adler, cunning, a digital lockpick, fuzzing APIs with the finesse of a safecracker, pen testing distros like they're Victorian vaults, and scripting exploits so elegant they'd make Mitnick jealous.
Ooh.
That's a good one, right?
Yeah.
Michael is our Dr. Watson, loyal software tinkerer with steadfast grit and always one step behind the latest kernel update.
Wait,
I don't know why.
Behind.
Yeah, you don't update, so that's like.
I mean, I do update now. It was a long running joke of how I used to not update. I do update now. I literally updated 20 minutes before the show.
Well, look at you. His mantra,
Exactly.
Elementary, my dear code. This week's investigation, we're dissecting a new doomsday prepper app, a Bluetooth mesh chat with IRC vibes, probing lossless scaling on Linux for pixel perfect gaming, and hunting for a Microsoft Surface-like dial to spin up Linux creativity, plus a few more clues from the tech fog. So grab your magnifying glass, sync your repos, and remember, in open source, the game is afoot when freedom's the prize. Let's solve the case. This is Destination Linux.
Let's solve it.
In our community feedback this week, our feedback comes from Nathan, who says, in episode 423, appreciate the reference to the episodes, by the way. You notice we mentioned that, and now all of our feedback comes with that. That's really nice. I
love it. It makes it a lot easier for us to know which episode you're talking about, because sometimes it takes us a while to realize, because we get a bunch of emails, and sometimes they're talking about the current episode, some they're talking about, because some people actually hold back because they, for a certain period of time, they can't watch the show. So they want to wait and then do it all in chronological order, which I respect. But it also means that sometimes we get like 10 episodes back type of comments. So it's really
fine as long as you tell us what episode.
Yeah, tell us what episode and timestamp if you could, because that'd be really nice.
Wow, now you're just asking for too much.
I mean, if you want to be one of the best one of the best feedback senders, then you can include the timestamp.
So they go on to say the true shame is that Ryan passed up the Takis in favor of the cheese puffs. I don't know what you're talking about. That never happened. Your reference to the episode is completely irrelevant because obviously I would always choose Takis instead of some disgusting cheese puffs, which we know all the worst people on the planet prefer cheese puffs. So why would I eat cheese puffs?
Confirmed.
Never happened. I don't know what Nathan's talking about. Is this Nathan, our Nathan, potentially, and they're just trolling me? Maybe that's what happened?
Know. It could be. It also could be the fact that they're right and you had cheese puffs.
Shut up, Michael. And then they go on to say, as much as I like Wayland, being an NVIDIA user, I just had a display issue that kept me from opening my most used programs. The only way I was able to fix it was by switching to X11 to get the fix to stick. I'm curious if one of the programs was Michael AI, because when I wrote Michael AI, I made sure that it worked both in X and Wayland.
I'm pretty sure Michael AI is just a command line tool and therefore would automatically work in anything.
So it works in Wayland. I mean, I coded it that way.
In fact, you purposely made it a TUI app.
Yeah, I don't know what people are talking about. Like, it's so hard to do. Like, I made my app compatible with X and Wayland as soon as I wrote it.
By avoiding both of them. Exactly. Good job.
No, I think this is really, it's really interesting because we've seen a lot of people in support of Wayland. We've seen a lot of people who say, hey, I'm interested in Wayland, but I still have issues. We get that in the comments. And I think this kind of speaks to the state of it. This reminds me a little bit of the whole Pipewire situation where, there were situations where Pipewire was not working as effectively and people were kind of leery, I guess you would say, of switching to it because of that, and rightfully so. And then eventually, as more people adopted Pipewire, it became, now you don't even notice it. I don't think
it's really the same thing every single time. Every time something like this comes around, it's always a small group that is very loud that screams about something.
We're not talking about Nathan here, by the way.
No. Nathan is just saying that this particular thing worked better for his situation in X. And that's totally fine.
Sure we're clear that it isn't about Nathan.
Well, I'm talking about all the drama that's around Wayland. And this is more of like every time there's a drama around something in Linux, it's because people don't like change and don't want change to happen. And that's basically it. But if you're having an issue and you drop to X, that's totally fine because maybe Wayland isn't ready to do that particular feature yet. I have done that myself on many occasions. So it's not like that's a bad thing. And Nathan, totally understandable what you're doing. It's more of like the people who are the anti Wayland and only want X kind of thing. It happened with the System D. It happened with Pipewire. Even happened with Pulse Audio, which Pipewire was replacing when Pulse came out the first time. It happens all the time. And anytime someone has a new idea to replace an existing like fundamental piece, they're gonna get annoyed. People are gonna get annoyed by it, and it is what it is. But it's always been after it's been replaced and after it's been tested and developed more, it's been better for everybody. So
talking specifically to what Nathan's discussing first, I think in these cases, Nathan, if you have the time, if you have the ability, it would be really helpful to open bug reports on this type of stuff because Wayland does need to fix this, right? This is not, in your case, you're not representing a small amount of users. You're using NVIDIA, which is one of the most popular GPUs out there and definitely needs support in Linux and has come a long way with support in Linux, and we don't want to go backwards, right? And so I think these bugs with programs that aren't working, get that stuff reported either to Wayland if it makes sense or to the specific app that's not working and see if they have plans to port it
or the
to Wayland.
DE, because it also might matter what DE you're using because not everybody has the same level of support for Wayland that the other ones do. So like GNOME and KDE have the best Wayland support. Then there's like XFCE who's working. XFCE and Mate are working on it, but it's kind of like half done. And then Cinnamon is kind of like in the very early stages, for example. So depending on which desktop you're using, there's a very vastly different experience you might have. So you also might need to look into see which one, like where the breakpoint is happening, whether it's the DE, whether it's the app, or whether it's Wayland itself.
But how does somebody who's not a Linux expert know? Like, okay, I'm not a Linux expert. I know when I open this app, it doesn't work. When I go to X, it works. Who am I supposed to open a ticket with? Like,
depends on what your issue is. Like if your issue is with your display, I would suggest that, like with Nathan's example, I feel like that's more of a desktop environment kind of thing. So I would contact whatever desktop team that you're using and talk to them about it and see if like they think it's really a Wayland issue or a desktop issue, because that's the best option is to go to one of them and just see what they're saying. Because if it is a Wayland issue, then they'll tell you that and you can just go to Wayland and submit it. But by default, you wouldn't really know which one to go. And that's a good point. But most of the time it's going to be on the DE side and or Wayland itself. The app is going to be probably rarity, because it depends on if the issue you're having is specific to that app or if it's like a hardware issue where it just randomly runs.
There's still compatibility layers. Technically, they should be kind of rolling back to one of the compatibility layers.
There is
X-Wayland.
So, yeah. So it depends. Like applications, that's why they're usually not the issue. But sometimes applications are made for Wayland support or in the process of making it. So it could also be a app issue. But I would say that it's more likely going to be on the DE side. So I would just do that first.
So Nathan, I'm in XFCE and I use X window managers, which right now are running on X Wayland. And one of the problems using X Wayland on XFCE and others like Fluxbox is that you have problems sometimes with the screenshot programs. So if I want to take a screenshot of what's on the screen, it won't do it. So like X Screen Shooter has issues with X Wayland, but I can go and use other screenshot applications without a problem.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be an issue where you're going to find an app that isn't made for Wayland. So like, for example, you were talking about how is it an app or the DE? When it's something that's like the display is something that's with the experience overall, that's going to be a DE side, but there's going to be applications that just don't work in Wayland. Like there's applications that are like the KVM switch without the actual KVM stuff. It's more of like it's like Synergy, Barrier, those kinds of things.
Yeah, Barrier is definitely one.
Those are not. I don't think Barriers doesn't even work anymore. I think it's been discontinued. But point is that they make it where you can have multiple machines using one keyboard and mouse, and that's a really cool thing. But that's typically an X only thing. So that doesn't mean that there wouldn't be an option for that. In fact, I just talked to someone today in the comments, and they were asking about that. And I found this tool called DeskFlow, which is effectively a Wayland supported version of doing the same thing. So you might have to just look for an alternative when it comes to the app stuff.
Yeah. So I think this is interesting because you stepped into a landmine, Michael, earlier talking about the whole X11 community and then the Wayland community, because that's a very hot topic right now.
So I would just say like it's the same as always.
Outside of the feedback with Nathan, I think that there's two people, right? There's two groups of people. There's the people who just don't want anything new, right? And the interesting part about it for me is I don't have any skin in the game either way. I like Wayland, but I also liked X fine too. But back in the day, before all this drama started, before Wayland was even talked about, I remember people talking about the fact that X lacked support for regular patching because it was such a messy code base. And there was less people that actually knew how to even do anything with it. And there were lots of security holes.
Understands it fully. Yeah.
There was lots of security holes. Yeah. And those security holes, and this is before all the drama now, those security holes were a major concern because when you combine those two things, not a lot of people supporting it and patching it, and security holes because it was written for a completely different purpose than what it was being used for today, then we needed another solution. And so Wayland came about, and I get the other group of people were saying, hey, let's not move to Wayland until we've got everything working. But the problem is the same one that Pipewire had, that at no point, because X has been around for so long, are you going to launch this thing and everything's going to be working. But I would say 95% of stuff needs to work properly, right? At least. And I think they're really close. Wayland's come a long way, and it's been in development for 10 years?
10.
No, 10. More than that.
Yeah.
16, 17?
Yeah.
So they've been,
it was like 2008, I'm pretty sure, is when it was officially started. It wasn't really really massively undertaking until about 2011, 2012 or so.
Now, let me step on a landmine here because I'm the one on the show typically steps in landmines, and then I get the hate mail, which I enjoy. So please keep sending. I love reading it. I get a little cup of coffee.
Asking for it, that definitely means you're going to get it.
And then I get some of those little nougat cookies, and then I read your little hateful comments, and I laugh. So let me step on this landmine. So I know there's a fork of X called X Libre, and a lot of people are saying, hey, why don't we just go this route? And then there's a whole bunch of drama I'm not going to touch of the developers and all of that. But what I will say is that my fear with that, outside of any of the other drama going on with it, is do you have enough people in corporate support to support something this massive, this important at a grand scale? So just because you forked it and you've done a couple patches doesn't mean you can support this thing long term and you got 5 or 6 people working on it versus hundreds of people potentially working on Wayland. That's kind of where I'm like, I don't care that there's a fork. That's what's great about Linux. You don't like Wayland? Fork it, create something better. And you have the option to use it. That's the beauty of Linux. Like, I'm all about it. At the same time, though, I would give pause to just adopting it until I saw there was a lot of support and they had done something fantastic with it, which they may do. I hope they do.
I feel like the only people who are going to be adopting it right now are people who are using a system that allows them to easily compile, or they know how to compile. So if they're using something like Arch with the AUR, then they could probably do it if they wanted to because it's made it easier through the AUR. But otherwise, they're going to have to compile it themselves. And that's not really a drop-in replacement. People who are using other desktops or other distros, they're not going to be really running into that kind of thing because it won't be an option, at least not for now. Because what this project needs to do is, in addition to everything you talked about, being able to sustain this kind of effort and the amount of effort this is a lot of people aren't acknowledging how complicated this thing is, right?
Probably one of the most complicated things outside the kernel.
Yeah.
It's actually way worse than people believe it to be. And it's because it's been around forever, basically. In the terms of the Linux world, it has been around forever, beyond more than forever. Because X11, as you said, is like a giant mess of spaghetti code for hundreds of devs over decades for the display server that was created before Linux ever existed. And
it
was
was made
basically
for Unix.
Yeah, it was made
80s.
for Unix, and it was slapped together with duct tape over the years with people trying to fix everything that they randomly found and all this sort of stuff. And there's also the fact that X11 is not secure. Many of the features that it offers is because it doesn't have a secure functionality. It has you can take data from other things by scraping it and stuff. You can pull data from application to application, which is really cool for global shortcuts. But there's also downsides to that. And it also wasn't really meant to be that, because they couldn't possibly develop for a 2020 plus world in 1984. So there are a lot of issues. And after 40 plus years of X, the code has just gotten more and more clunky. So it's fair to say that you have issues with Wayland, and then Wayland itself has issues. Understandable. Basically, anything that's brand new that's going to be replacing a fundamental feature is going to have some issues, especially when they're not trying to have 100% compatibility, because many of the reasons that there's some of the features in X exist is because of bad security issues. So they're going to try to break those first and fix the security issues by design. But anyway, it's basically eventually it's going to be a thing for everybody. It's going to cause headaches, and it is what it is. But after we get to the past, the Pipewire stage and the System D stage, now a lot of people, you don't hear System D that much. You don't hear people yelling about System D because it just works and it's nice to use and it is what it is. So the same thing is going to happen with Wayland. But understandably, right now, there are some breakages.
I think every comment that I've seen from most people, not every comment, the majority of the comments are NVIDIA users, and they also are, a big group of users out there have NVIDIA. So I think that the focus needs to be on really getting that NVIDIA portion working better.
The sad thing about that is that the NVIDIA fought Wayland for so long because they were willing to support Wayland from the beginning, but they wanted to have proprietary protocols that were only made for NVIDIA through Wayland. And the Wayland developers and all the distro developers basically said no. And also the desktop developers were all in agreement to tell NVIDIA, no, you're going to use what we wanted you to use, or go away. And that actually did work, but it took them 10 years to finally give in. So
it's hard to convince a $4 trillion company, the first company in the world, to be worth $4 trillion, people.
Yeah. I think it's actually important to note that Linux is powerful enough to make them give in. It took a while, but it did happen. So
I think it was Linus's middle finger that made him give it eventually. But
maybe.
In any case, Nathan, if you didn't notice, we love your comment because you had us talking for 18 minutes on this topic. And it's fascinating. And I appreciate you sharing your story, even though you made up a story at the very beginning about me eating cheese puffs. The rest of your comment was fantastic and appreciated. And I agree with you. The
comment you made is absolutely correct. And the first comment is absolutely correct. Yes.
And I agree with you 100% in case there's any mistaking it, that there's work that needs to be done, especially for NVIDIA. I am hoping that all the NVIDIA users out there take the time to submit those bugs so we can get it right out there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If you want to send in your comments, go to destinationlinux.net/comments. We'd love to hear from you. Destinationlinux.net/forum. Send in your nice comments. Send in your hate mail to Michael, and I will read it and drink my coffee and eat my little nougat cookies and enjoy them.
But as Linux users, we know what's up. Security is non-negotiable. With threats getting smarter, your security tools need to keep up without dragging your system down, of course. Traditional agents, you might be thinking, well, they slow you down and they leave blind spots. So even worse than keeping up, they don't keep up, and they make it even worse than that. It's time for a smarter approach. That's why Destination Linux is proud to be sponsored by Sandfly Security, the revolutionary agentless platform designed for Linux. So go to destinationlinux.net/Sandfly to check it out. And Sandfly doesn't just detect and respond. It revolutionizes security with SSH key tracking, password auditing, and drift detection, covering threats from every angle. Whether your systems are in the cloud, on premises, or in embedded devices, Sandfly ensures they're all secure without the headaches of agent-based solutions. And if you want to get started right now, you can do it with a free trial. And also, we have a coupon code. But I want to tell you about what Salinda Lakamgi said from Take Communications about Sandfly. He says that Sandfly addresses a serious security gap in the industry: intrusion detection on Linux platforms. The best part of Sandfly is its agentless nature, making it a versatile application for any Linux environment. So if you want to experience security that's not just effective, but gives you peace of mind, no agents, no downtime, just cutting edge protection, go to destinationlinux.net/Sandfly.
And join all of the really intelligent listeners that we have that have taken advantage of the discount that you get for listening to this show on the home edition of Sandfly. You just use the discount code DESTINATION, and then you will get 50% off of your home edition for this. You know, I have all of the security podcasts that do all of the news. They do news shows kind of like you do, Michael, but it's just on the security stuff. And one of the ones that popped up today was the sudo situation, where they found that there's some vulnerabilities in sudo itself. And one of the things that the person mentioned is to make sure you're looking for any intrusion detection, you know, that might occur from this. Now, it wasn't a huge deal. They weren't blowing it out of proportion. It's been there for a while, but they're saying, hey, one of the ways you want to make sure you combat this after you patch is just look for any intrusion detection. And I thought immediately about Sandfly and how important tools like this are, because the other podcast I was listening to was talking about some of these government tools, which I've mentioned on the show before, that governments have been using against each other, are now out there in the open, because once you use it, you can't take it back. And people are now modifying it to do more personal attacks and things. In fact, there's one that I think that's going on against Mac OS right now. So in any case, intrusion detection, very important. The way Sandfly does it, super cool. Check out the home edition. Go to destinationlinux.net/Sandfly and check it out. All right, Michael, are you a doomsday prepper? Do you have like axes and food and MREs and, you know, ammunition aplenty?
So everything that you just asked, no, except for I have lots of food, yes.
Do you have an axe?
No.
So you can't say you have my axe like in the Lord of the Rings thing ever,
because you don't
say that. Literally have an axe.
Jill, I mean, I used to have an axe, but I don't anymore.
Jill, I bet you have an axe.
Oh yeah. Me and my husband are prepared.
Of course she does.
Jill probably got 2 battle axes, you know?
Yeah.
I love it.
So I do here because of earthquakes and that kind of thing. So
we're very nice. That's actually one of the use cases for this app we're going to talk about. So I saw something I thought was super cool this week. It's called BitChat. BitChat is a secure, decentralized, peer-to-peer messaging app that works over Bluetooth mesh networks. No internet required, no servers, no phone numbers, just encrypted communications. If you remember, I was showing off on this show, and I think it was from a recommendation from one of our listeners, this little Meshtastic device that was also this open source, off-grid, decentralized mesh network. But it ran on a separate piece of equipment rather than your phone, and it really didn't have a lot of range, and you have to carry this little device and keep it charged with you, and you already got to keep all these other things charged, and it's cool. I love it. But this reminds me of that, but running on your actual phone, which is really kind of cool. The way this works is each phone acts both as a client, sending, receiving messages, and a relay, passing messages to other devices, basically forming a mesh network and utilizing Bluetooth to do it. And there's no central servers involved. You don't need an internet connection. So for doomsdayers, this is where, you know, you got the doomsday scenario where the internet gets shut down, the electric grid goes off. Okay, you can't charge your phone, but maybe you're doomsday prepper. You have a generator and solar power. You're good. And you can still send messages to, you know, your little group of other doomsday preppers and hunters and other things that are around there.
If the internet goes down, I could see how that could still be useful. But if the internet goes down and the power isn't down, it feels like that's a weird doomsday for
Michael, who knows what doomsday is going to look like? Like, are you some Are you some fortune teller? You know exactly what.
Actually, I did predict that Linux was going to get to 5%, so I might be.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we could do an episode where you tell us what doomsday is going to look like. Also, this could be utilized for anyone that lives in areas where governments are compromising the so-called secure messaging apps. I say that because there's a lot of news out there about WhatsApp right now, and I know it's very popular in other countries, but that, WhatsApp's denying it, but there's a lot of people who believe they've been compromised from governments. And
I mean, that's basically what happens when you have an application that says, we use encryption. Trust me, bro. And that's all it is, because we don't know if they do, because it's a proprietary app. We don't know if it's actually secure. We don't know. We know that they say they use a form of the Signal protocol, but that's kind of all we know, because it's proprietary and it's owned by Meta/Facebook. So, I mean, yeah, sure, bro.
It reminds me of this security bulletin that I saw that said something like, I didn't get to look into it. I wish I did. If somebody finds it, send it. But it basically said, it came out this week and said, Cisco routers have been compromised. They are now working on patching the back door that they built into the routers. And I'm like, what?
I hope that's like an Onion thing, because that would be insane.
Back doors? And it got patched. If somebody finds that, you got to
let us know for sure.
Yeah.
So Jack Dorsey, the original creator of Twitter, is the one who's developed this app. Messages are encrypted using, AES 256 GCM, ensuring that only the recipient can read them, and that the nodes cannot decrypt the content that are sending it. So essentially, the way that this works is, Bluetooth has a limited range, but think about it like Apple tags.
Yeah,
if you have enough people, Apple AirTags, you have enough people on this mesh network, essentially these messages, each person becomes a node that can transmit these messages that are meant to get to various people. So the more people that have the app, the better this kind of technology works. And this is in the very early stages. They've only allowed 10,000 people in as testers using Apple's test flight, and they already hit their limit of users, so you can't even sign up for it yet. I just still think it's a really cool idea. I love this thought, especially for people who live in areas where the government is censoring things. Sometimes they shut down the internet entirely for people when they don't want stuff to get out of their country. So this allows people to still be able to communicate without being, surveillanced, or in situations where protests are happening and they're shutting down social media and other things, and people can't talk to each other, text messaging, telecom networks. Obviously, disaster zones. Jill, the reason you have two battle axes is apparently if you get into a disaster zone, you can take people out if you need to, I assume, or get yourself out of the house.
Take out zombies and stuff. Yeah.
Well, what's awesome about this is everyone has a smartphone. Almost everyone has a smartphone in their pocket. And all you need to download is the app. Unlike with Meshtastic, like you were saying, you have to buy hardware. Well, this is kind of Meshtastic, but even better because everyone has a device in their hand already. So,
yeah,
well, I think it's interesting because it's a cool idea, but I'm devil's advocate here, right? I think it's cool, but it needs a huge amount of adoption for this to be of any value. Because if you have 20, 30 feet of range, maybe it's good if you are with a friend and you're in the public in a mall or something and you want to make fun of someone and you want to do it quietly, you could do it through this thing.
Why is that your go-to? Do you spend a lot of time in the mall making fun of people, Michael?
No, that's how you and I interact when we're in person. Is we make fun of each other all the time. So, but usually that's into each other's face. So we don't really need those.
Through an app?
We don't need the app for that. No. Unless we wanted to do it without other people knowing we're making fun of each other. I guess that'd be useful. Yeah. But then there's also the example of if you, based on that tangent right there, I forgot what my second example was, but
it was a good one. And this was just a tribute.
It's now, exactly. But it's an interesting idea, but at the same time, it's only 20, 30 feet. And with the AirTags, Apple has such a huge adoption with the iPhone that the AirTag is useful, because if you don't know how it works, as long as an iPhone, an iPad, or a MacBook connects to an AirTag through Bluetooth, it does a ping saying this is where the AirTag is. And that way you can be notified if you walk away from it because all it needs is someone else to have an iPhone around it to tell you. And that sort of thing is cool, but that's because Apple has such a huge adoption rate. Whereas this thing is going to be starting from scratch, and it's going to require convincing a bunch of people to use it. So they have to do a lot of like marketing, but they also have to make it so easy mainstream usability that people will want to use it. And if they can combine those things and make it super user friendly, but at the same time not require the internet, that would be amazing. Because I feel like the adoption is the only problematic thing.
Yeah, but I think the first time people experience a disaster where it's hard to get onto a telecom network where they don't work at all, the first time people experience the internet going down entirely, which could happen with all these governments in a 5x5 sandbox and one shovel fighting each other, where we lose internet for a long time, you can't message people, like this type of thing will become really adopted.
Yeah, but only
at a heavy
after
rate.
that's done. Right?
Yeah, after that's done, the first time
this has to survive a reasonable amount until the disaster happens, and then once everything is fixed, the internet is back on, then they could download the app from the stores.
But the second piece is they're also looking in the future updates to include Wi-Fi Direct for improved speeds and stuff like that. So a lot of times
that's the ticket right there.
Yeah, the internet goes down, but your Wi-Fi router is still up. It's still got signal that's propagating.
Yeah,
it just has no internet backbone. If you can propagate against that, now you've got a much larger range. Especially if you're me and you put way too many antennas for the size of your house, and so you propagate halfway down the block. You definitely
not kidding. It's a very long signal.
So like there's certainly some security concerns here, and also annoying concerns that I have. How many of these like social media forums and platforms and things have we joined, Michael, where you get the constant spam of Bitcoin and stuff? And so. But in case, there's no way to stop them from propagating messages once they get your number, right? Like you can't ban them because there's no.
That's why I don't
information.
If this requires your phone number to use it in the way that see, in that sense, I feel like it's fine because that at least that you could always just change your session ID or whatever, like how session has like a specific
ID. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
If you can just switch that out, it wouldn't be as annoying. Whereas a phone number, you can't easily switch. That's why I refuse to use WhatsApp because it requires your phone number. And I also don't like the fact that Signal requires your phone number.
Well, it doesn't anymore, right?
They supposedly said that they're working on it not doing that, but I don't know if it does or not.
Yeah. Interesting. So I think this has, we've probably spent too much time on this, but I think this is really cool. Would love the community's feedback and thoughts on something like this and other use cases we're not thinking of, remote areas, people who trek in the wilderness and things that kind of can act as a walkie-talkie in ways as well, potentially. Or I like this one, large gatherings. Imagine you go to DEF CON and you've got your group of people with you, and you could sit there and, do messaging at large gatherings where a lot of times the networks there get overwhelmed.
That's actually probably a really good use case for it because they don't want to use their actual connections for that.
You don't even want your phone connected to anything.
Yeah, you actually don't even want to use your real phone at these places.
You know what? I was almost thinking, maybe in the future, this will be the public facing way of creating a mesh network, and the mesh tastic devices will be kind of like the ham operators of a mesh.
I like it. Yeah. And if they make them intercompatible, it just makes the network bigger. It's open source, so it can become anything people want it to be. And that's what I love about it.
What if I know that says the nodes are encrypted and that sort of stuff, and that's good. But I'm also thinking like another devil's advocate. What if someone figures out a way to, use the devices that are kind of like the relays to use that as an infection system of like some kind of malware or something like that.
Well, if you're just sending text, it'd be pretty hard to do malware. But when you get to the media side on the Wi-Fi, that's where you start introducing that type of stuff. And I mean, it's a problem, right? You might have to deal with.
Yeah. Overall, still interesting.
You got to be able to send cat pictures. I mean, if you can't send cat pictures across it, who cares about it? Really?
Well, here's the thing. The internet is for cat pictures, but this is not requiring the internet. So does it need cat pictures?
One of our amazing patrons, by the way, gave us a cat picture today in our patron room to help inspire us, which they know how to use the internet properly. That's all I'm saying. That's how you use the internet. All right, Jill, tell us what's going on in Linux with some losslessness.
Losslessness. So this is a great example of how some of the cool and awesome gaming features that are on Windows are coming to Linux and making Linux a first-class citizen in gaming. The new LSFG-VK project aims to port lossless scaling's frame generation feature popular on Windows to the Linux operating system.
Nice.
Lossless scaling is a popular application you pay for on Windows for advanced scaling algorithms and frame generation in games. What this means is that it increases the performance of the game by adding more frames and increasing frames per second, or FPS.
Basically, it's upscaling this stuff. It's for those who don't know what we're talking about. This does seem like a lot of jargon terms, but I was saying yay, and I wasn't being facetious. This was just it is awesome.
It's wonderful,
but a lot of people are not going to be like fully aware of what this. If you know what AMD's FSR system is, basically being able to upscale the frames so that you can have more frames that weren't there, but also it can add improvements to the pixels to make it look even better and that sort of thing. So it can upscale it to, like, for example, if you have a game that's good and built for 1080p, you could upscale it to 4K, depending on your hardware and that sort of 2K thing.
But the thing
it depends on the hardware and depends on the game.
Mm-hmm.
I love how you said, let me break this down and explain it, and use more acronyms of AMD's FSR to explain the thing that's already got too many acronyms.
I can't remember. I think it's, full super resolution. I think that's what FSR means.
Fidelity FX super resolution.
So I got the super part. So,
yes.
But that still isn't helpful, because saying that doesn't help.
Makes
that's why I was
pretty.
Explaining. That's why
games get pretty and run fasty.
Yeah.
If you want to explain it like I'm 5 type of situation, then it is takes games that not as good, make good and have good gameplay
and prettier.
Well, depending on the depends on the game. Could be even scarier if it's like a horror game.
This is true. Or so on their Steam store website, lossless scaling states, like Michael was saying, lossless scaling is also used for upscaling modern games if you cannot run them at native screen resolution and are GPU limited, and want to get rid of blur due to bilinear scaling of the GPU driver, as well as for upscaling older and pixel art games which do not support modern screen resolutions or full screen mode. Yay! And this port of lossless scaling is not the whole program, but includes the frame generation features from lossless scaling to Linux. There are a few other frame generation upscalers on Linux, including NVIDIA's DLSS, or deep learning supersampling, and what Michael was talking about earlier, AMD's FSR, or Fidelity FX Super Resolution. That's very common in most of the modern games.
I like how they both have the word super in it.
I know. Yeah.
Super sampling.
We should release a new version of Destination Linux that's the super version.
Destination Super Linux or Super Destination Linux?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. I like them both.
It's hard to pick.
Well, the big advantage of lossless scaling is that you don't need DLSS or FSR, and it has the potential to work as a standalone framework across all the GPU vendors.
That's a big deal.
You're not locked in. This is just awesome. And the LSFG-VK project is open source and was created by a computer science student in Germany who goes by the name Pancake on GitHub.
Nice.
And of course, this project is still a work in progress. This is, still the alpha days and can be installed, but requires a bit of Linux food to get it working. So if you're comfortable with Linux, give it a go. And there is actually a wiki linked on the LSFG-VK GitHub page with full install instructions. And you can join their Discord channel for help as well.
This makes me think pancakes are better than waffles. Like, I was a waffle person, waffles with pecans.
I like waffles.
Now that Pancake has created this, I'm thinking pancakes are superior.
I like Belgian waffles.
Blueberry pancake?
I feel like you can't go that far and to say that this person named Pancake is then somehow justifying the pancake side of things when it comes to pancake versus waffles. I feel like you're stretching too far. You're trying to go to waffles are better. They have pockets.
Pancakes are making a name for themselves because Pancake has created something for Linux.
No. Pancakes are not making a name. Pancake is making a name for pancakes. It's different. So
I love the name Pancake, by the way.
It is
I know.
Great
It's really
name.
cute.
I'm just Pancake.
Yeah.
I feel like he has to have some it'd be cool if he had like an icon that's like a stack of pancakes, and then there's different like code dripping down like syrup. Be cool.
Oh, Michael, amazing. Jill, this is a really cool project. I think it's awesome. Also, what really stuck out to me is the older games that can scale up to resolution, so they're not played on little tiny. So this is kind of part of the history. What do they call it? The people who are
preservation,
the archiving of games and preserving the older games and things like this. To me, this is a cool way of also introducing people to some of those older games without having to do it on some little tiny screen.
It's really good because there's a lot of people who want to like show like their kids a really old game that's still fun, but they're going to be anti the game because it just looks super old. But if you can upscale it and make it look reasonably right now, like on better resolutions and stuff, that's awesome. And the fact that this works on every GPU, that's fantastic. And I can't wait to see it build on top of this platform and get like even better, like this project to grow and grow, because there's a ton of potential. I also would like for someone to take this project and then adopt it for TV and make like Star Trek Next Generation and the original series.
Didn't they already do that? They redigitized it?
They redid that for the Blu-ray. Yeah.
Unless it's Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, Deep Space Nine was video. So
Deep Space Nine is the best.
Not true. Next Generation, Deep Space Nine.
We talked about this on the show. This is not a new thing. Deep Space Nine is my favorite.
Deep Space Nine is good. I'll give you that.
I don't think I'm just saying that as like a way to start a fight a little bit, but it's my favorite. But TNG is probably the best.
Haven't we already fought Pancakes versus Waffles? Now you want a second fight? You're very ornery today, Michael. I hope cousin Lisa talks in the comments about how you're ornery this week instead of always picking on me, cousin Lisa.
I think technically you started the fight with the pancake, declaring pancakes better with this.
I was asking the question: does this make pancakes better than waffles?
No, it doesn't. Pancake is it's really cool that he's making this software. That's awesome, but that does not mean it's better than waffles. Waffles are fantastic. Now, if there's a user name, like a user developer who's named Waffle, we'd have to see the code to be able to.
What if Waffle only works on Windows? Then would you change?
Well, then automatically Pancake wins for sure.
Pancake, okay,
yeah, for sure.
I'm glad we decided this.
What was so funny, Ryan, when my cousin Lisa watched the last episode, she got back to me. She said, I was just saying hello.
Oh yeah, try to act all innocent. That's so not saying you could just literally type, Lisa, hello, Geek, instead of saying you're really annoying. That is not hello. What language is that hello? I don't understand.
Ryan, why are you being so irritating this week?
I know. Lisa, troublemaker Lisa. That's what I call it. Yeah. All right, Michael, what else do we got on the show?
All right, so this next topic, I am so excited and I can't wait to get one for myself. It's actually in pre-order right now, and it's already in like tier B. Like the early access and the tier A have already sold out, so that's a bummer. But we could still get one for the show at someday. This is essentially a dial that you can use on Linux. So it's a device that is effectively like a scroll wheel type of. No, it's not a scroll wheel. It's a wheel device that you would see in like creative devices. Like creative keyboards have a wheel that you can adopt to different features and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Now, I actually have one of these, and I would like to show it to you. Not one of these. I wish I did. This is a DaVinci Resolve keyboard, and it has this. This is basically what we're talking about. Is this thing having a wheel like this?
For
and
editing.
This is awesome, except it only works in DaVinci Resolve and does nothing else. So that's a bummer. This device works with anything, and it actually uses QMK to be able to connect it to anything. So you could configure it to work with whatever you want. And it looks pretty cool. And you might recognize the name of the company who is bringing it to us because they have been on the show before. We've talked about them a couple of times, and that is Ploopy.
Michael, please. We're not children here. What's the name of the company?
The name is Ploopy.
Michael, please. Tell me the real name of the company. There's no way.
It's called the Ploopy Knob.
Yes. It's a compact control device with a low-profile design. It's about the size of a large wristwatch and contains a custom PCB powered by USB-C connection.
Okay, it's a little bit bigger than a wristwatch.
Yeah.
But
it's kind of funny because that was one of the articles I was reading. I'm like, no, I think it's a little bigger than that.
Yeah. Well,
literally, when you said the name of the company, I thought you need to take a break. I thought you Ploopy yourself or something.
I wouldn't be myself on the show. I mean,
okay, that's what I was just wondering. So,
but I would if I got this device. It's actually not bad. It on the website they do it in Canadian dollars. So in real money, it's $37 USD. And this is very cool. I So, by the way, we got a feedback, which is fantastic. We got another feedback to talk about on the show. And it's because like someone mentioned they sent an email talking about the real money thing that I said on Google, and we showed it in the video, which it does do what I said. But it turns out the real money applies to what country they're in. So if this person was in Australia and they put in real money and gave them
fantastic. AUD. Yeah. Very clever, Google. That is very clever.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That was
search engine's dead and AI is taking over, but very clever. Very clever.
Yeah, that's a good Easter egg that most people don't know exists in the first place that you never told anybody. But still, so this is very cool. The Ploopy Knob has a weird name, but it's a very cool idea. And I've been wanting something like this for a very long time for Linux. And it's just like, I know it doesn't, in creative work, to be able to scroll a timeline while you're video editing, or to be able to move around the canvas when you're doing some digital stuff, or, being able to use it to zoom in and out, or even just control your volume. There's so many different ways you can use this kind of tool that I am very excited about this. I didn't know this existed. I would have much rather been in the early access, but, tier B is better than nothing.
You know what? Tyler in our patron chat mentioned something that I think is a really good visual for people listening to the audio version of what this thing is. They mentioned it looks like someone took the iPod click wheel and made it an independent input device. I was just thinking the other day how I missed the iPod. I don't know why. I just missed the little cool iPod with the headphones carrying around. And you're like, you have that in your phone, dummy. I know. But I think the iPod and just having something with just dedicated to music, and it was just cool. And the little clicky wheel was amazing little navigation device to navigate your little iPod.
So for those who don't know, this is I feel I have two things that I can run off of that. First of all, I had an experience today that I decided that I'm just, the whole focus on the music and that sort of thing. That's because the device is simple and it just does the one thing and it does it well and that sort of stuff. I got annoyed by my phone, like constantly doing notifications, constantly trying to get my attention. I deleted a bunch of apps. I actually removed a bunch of apps off my home screen. I deleted them entirely off my phone. I also installed an app that allows you to block things from running at certain times so you can't even open it if you want to. And things like that. I wanted to just strip it down as much as I can so it doesn't annoy me constantly. Because I've seen these like videos about dumb phones and stuff like that. I don't really want a dumb phone, but I want it to be a smartphone that is dumb most of the time. So that's what that's what I'm doing.
Smartphone that's dumb most of the time. That would be a great marketing. We create a phone. We call it the Ploopy phone, and
we'd have to get Ploopy involved in that, and then they'd want to
get a smartphone that's dumb most of the time, but when you need it, can be smart.
If you need it to be, you can turn on the smarts. But
I feel like at one point, Michael, you got a job review for performance review where it said dumb most of the time. Something like that, but sometimes
you didn't even finish the quote. If you would have said exactly what I said, I'd give you credit.
The quote.
It's only been 20 seconds.
So maybe it should be my job review.
Yeah, maybe it should be yours.
Yeah.
So if it's smart some of the time, but most of the time it's dumb. That's what I want my phone to be.
That's your job review that you got.
Exactly. When it matters, it's smart, but otherwise it's mostly dumb. But that's my phone now. But also that wheel thing. I don't know if anybody's seen this, but you have to, if you haven't. The Onion used to make videos. I don't know if they still make videos, but they used to make these like parody tech review video things. And they made one called the Apple Wheel, where they made a MacBook, but replaced the keyboard with a giant iPod wheel. And it is just hilarious. If you haven't seen that video, go watch it. It's awesome.
Yeah, I could totally see Apple doing that too, honestly.
Yeah.
Probably.
This is because that'll be their next big innovation. And everyone will be like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. We don't need a keyboard anymore. You just get to use Siri, which is wrong all the time. No, but that's what it is, Michael. That's why I miss the iPod, because when I have my phone and I'm listening to music through the earphones, other notifications are going off, people text or whatever. And then you've got these features where it's like, we'll read you the text, interrupts your music and read you. And you can't just focus on, hey, I'm coding. I've got my earbuds in. I just want to listen to my music. And that makes me miss the Zune. I think the Zune was really cool from Windows.
Yeah.
And it makes me miss the iPod.
That's actually a hot take that shouldn't be a hot take. The Zune was really good. I had one.
Yeah.
It was good. It just came out like 5 years too late.
So
yeah. That's
and it
why
even had the album art you could flick through and still see the album art, which kids don't even know about these days. You kids don't know nothing. You know nothing about nothing. Back in my day, we owned stuff. We bought it.
Now you just lost it and you don't even know you rented it. It says buying, but you just bought a license to currently use it at that given time. But you someday you'll
I think everything's going to come back around. It's going to rubber band back to owning. In fact, I was listening to an article, because it was an audio, but they were talking about the fact that kids these days are looking for getting back into that physical ownership. And one of the examples they were giving was LPs and how popular they're coming. The record stores are opening back up and this stuff. And people were kind of tired of not owning stuff. And that basically all of these subscription services like Netflix was this fantastic idea. But now that everyone has a subscription service, nobody wants to use this crap anymore. So they're just pirating is coming back in a huge way because of the fact that now there's 15 subscription services for different things. Whereas Netflix kind of was this central solution. Now they've spread it all out. So now they're talking about
there's also the factor that you don't actually own the stuff. I feel like that makes
you lose it.
So in the streaming world of videos, you know that you're renting. When you say you're streaming something, you got a streaming subscription, you know it's a rental because you only have access to whatever they have access to. So it makes sense in that way that it's the same way if you bought a TV like cable package or something. You only have access to while you're paying for it and whatever's being played. Like I think that's totally fine. Where we have the biggest issue, in my opinion, is the gaming side, where there's the Stop Killing Games initiative. I talked about it on a previous video on my channel, and it's got a lot of improvements in the sense of like it was almost not going to hit it. It has hit the thing. They still want people to more, put in some extra signatures just for padding for the people who are EU citizens and that sort of stuff to make sure that it does go through. But the idea that what's great about it is that it hit the mark and immediately lobbyists popped up from the gaming industry saying like how this is so bad. We can't do this. And like, okay, we know that this is actually a good thing for gamers because the game industry lobbyist freaked out.
When the lobbyists come out, you've done a good job. You're on that important.
and the fact that they're freaking out right now is awesome because you did it to yourself. You made it so that we didn't own the thing we bought and said that we were buying it. And it's I saw this one article and I thought it was really interesting. I'm not advocating for this. I'm just saying it's really interesting. If buying is not owning, then pirating is not stealing. I thought, that's interesting.
Oh, that's nice.
How can you steal something you don't own?
You can't own it. So how is it stealing? I was like, that's it.
Just
very interesting.
Giving it back. I don't know.
Yeah.
Very interesting whole topic, probably for another show. But
we were talking about the dial, by the way.
The dial's really cool. If you haven't seen the dial, it essentially allows you to navigate by the twist of your wrist and different things like that. And it's great for work
It's like
that
a
Michael
Bop It,
and
but
Jill
not.
do where they're editing photos, videos, those type of things. It can be really useful for that stuff.
And
Yeah, very
powered
cool.
by a Raspberry Pi RP 2040 chip, which
I mean,
is
Right.
awesome.
So
Very
if you wanna, you can't bop it, and you can twist it though. You can't bop it. But you can, or
Man, you worked really hard on that one, but I
didn't
respect
land.
where you were going with it. The bop it
Yeah.
thing.
I couldn't remember the other one. Was it pull it? Was that was? I think
Pull
it
it,
was pull
bop it, slap it,
twist, but also twist it. There's also a
twist
twist.
it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
can do the twist part. The only thing I feel like it needs is to be able to be a button. So it's a singular giant button. I couldn't find any
How do
information.
you know if it's not a button?
I couldn't find anywhere any information whether it is or not. So
Could be a
that's
button.
I wish it was a button, but I wish but I don't think it is. But that'd be the only thing I could say to make it better, or maybe wireless. But buttons are good. It makes it improved. But anyway, I think this is really cool. I want to try it out. So Ploopy, if you would like us to cover this on a show, a future episode, do a review, and you'd also like us to not laugh at the name Ploopy, let us know.
Yeah, and remember that with every Ploopy product, and that includes trackballs, mice, trackpads, even headphones. The Ploopy knob is fully open source with all files available on its GitHub page, including 3D printed case files, the RP2040 firmware, and detailed guides for assembly and programming.
And for all the people who have kids in their car that are under 10 years old and are laughing hysterically at the name Ploopy, we apologize. Also, for all the adults who are 10-year-old minded like us. You're welcome.
And you're welcome.
Jill, what's our software pick this week?
So text-to-speech is actually a very useful tool, but there are always privacy concerns that come with it. That's why our software pick this week lets you do speech-to-text without connecting to the internet. And it's called SpeechNote. SpeechNote lets you take, read, and translate notes in multiple languages. It uses speech-to-text, text-to-speech, and machine translation to do so. Text and voice processing take place entirely offline, locally on your computer without using a network connection, which is really awesome. And, your privacy is always respected and no data is sent to the internet. Kudos. And as many good apps do, SpeechNote is available in dark mode and can be downloaded as a flat pack over at flathub.org.
Double sold.
Even better.
Yeah.
And we are covering this again. We had covered this back in Destination Linux 339.
Yeah,
many
and it's actually
moons
got
ago.
a lot of updates, and also it's being featured in the Flat Hub now. And I think this is important to cover it again because obviously this is a cool app.
Yeah.
But this is going to be really good for accessibility and be able to do dictation, stuff like that. It's and just productivity and that sort of stuff. So this is a really good. And if you're looking for ability to easily dictate stuff, SpeechNote is definitely something to check out.
And doomsday preppers, you don't need the internet, so you've got two tools for your doomsday guide,
provided that the power is still on during this doomsday.
The doomsday, well, you've got solar, but doomsday people have solar stuff and everything else figured out.
So your solar will, so you provided that you have more than 4 days of solar battery usage of this.
Naturally,
this doomsday.
You're really Ploopy this episode. You know that?
Yeah.
I wish I was Ploopy, then I'd have the knob, but I don't have the knob.
A big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching or listening to Destination Linux. However you do it, we love your Ploopy faces. Come join us in a Discord by going to tuxdigital.com/Discord and meet a bunch of other Ploopy people who you can go hang out with and love Linux and love open source and love this show. Right
exactly. And if you want to support this Ploopy show, then you can go to tuxdigital.com/membership, where you get a bunch of cool perks. You get access to watch the show live. We have unedited episodes you can watch after the fact. Yes, there is more content that is not available after the editing is done. So if there's a thing that you were hoping that we might say, we might have. And the only way you're going to find out is to become a member. Going to tuxdigital.com/membership. And you also get discounts in the store, tuxdigital.com/store to get that. And you get discounts depending on your tier. So might want to get a higher tier or get a higher discount. There you go.
Look at
Yeah,
that.
there we go. And make sure to check out all the cool shows here on Text Digital. That's right. We have an entire network of shows to fill your whole week with geeky goodness. Head to textdigital.com to keep those Linux penguins marching and your Ploopy happy.
In fact, if you want a really Ploopy channel to check out, you can check out DOS Geek. He has a lot of Ploopy content.
It's the first time you recommended my channel separately from the outro, and that's because you got to put the word Ploopy in.
I wanted to call it a Ploopy channel.
You are such a child, Michael. Grow up, please. Please.
You know what?
I
just want to say thank you, Ploopy, for making your company name that. So we have so much fun on this show.
So fun.
Such a child.
Yeah, I love it.
We're closing this childish show out. Everybody, have a great week.
Ploopy channel.
And remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Love you all.
For another Ploopy episode
Most of you.
Destination Linux.
The non-Ploopy ones we love.
Well, unless you work at Ploopy, then
yeah, we like you then too. Yeah, if you work at Ploopy.
So
Ploopy's awesome.
It depends. We're using it in different ways,